What would happen if sophisticated business concepts like long-term growth and scale plans, executive coaching, analytics and data evaluation, and financial modeling were applied to a nonprofit? You'll find out from John Oliver as he explains how Elevate USA is doing all of that and more to impact a rapidly growing number of young people all across the country on this episode of Making Our World Better.
Welcome to the Making Our World Better podcast, where you will find motivation and encouragement through lively conversations with inspirational people who every day are making our world a better place. Now, here's your host, Jay Clark.
Welcome to the podcast. I am Jay Clark, and I'm thrilled to have a conversation with John Oliver, Chief Operating Officer of Elevate USA, an organization that is leaning in to some of the huge problems facing young people today. John has spent more than 2 decades working in the youth services industry, focused on providing young people opportunities to reach their full potential. He started down this path with Colorado Uplift, and he has been working to elevate economically disadvantaged communities in America since 2001. Awesome. With Elevate USA, John puts his energy into building infrastructure that is conducive for organizational growth and scale, and Elevate USA is impacting more than 10,600 students and counting. He believes the only ways to see the vision realized is by hiring, retaining, and growing talent that enters the organization. Prior to joining Elevate USA, John served as the Chief Program Officer for ACE Scholarships, which is where I first crossed paths with him and admired his work, helping that great organization expand its programming across the country. When he's not going Mach 1 at work, John is the drummer in the kick butt Chicago blues band Incoming Groove and is a high school football sideline official. Most importantly, John is a devoted father to a son, and I can't wait to get into all of this with him. John, thanks for being here.
That's great to be with you, Jay.
So we'll start simple like I always do, and just tell me how you would describe Elevate USA to somebody that doesn't know anything about it.
Yeah, sure. So I would tell them we are a national best practice organization of social entrepreneurs that launch and support independent nonprofits around the country, implementing a model that originated here in Denver by Dr. Kent Hutchison, which is called Colorado Uplift. What I would explain our work as, we replicate a proven program that's existed for about 40 years, so a little bit over 4 decades now. Providing guidance, leadership to all the aspects of launching a nonprofit in prospective cities. And that's where that term social entrepreneur comes from, is we basically build from the ground up. So we work with key stakeholders in cities across our country that want to address kind of the relational insecurity issues, some social problems in their community. And we start right from building that founding board all the way to helping to build every component of the business. So every operational component, hiring, everything else. And then the best part of this is after we launch, we get to support these affiliates over time with technical training, professional development, ad hoc support, everything else. We basically want to help them expand their pipelines as well. And so we provide all of that launch and support services.
That's awesome. So I want you to tell me a little bit how it's evolved, because it sounds like, and franchise is probably not the right term, but it sounds like you guys are kind of the home base that can really, if somebody wants to do one of these awesome programs and help kids in their community, you guys can lead them from startup to, capacity building to where they're really humming.
Yeah. So there's a lot of different ways to do this. And I'm fortunate to kind of do it both ways. One way is an affiliate model where it's not a franchise. It is right. 100% you're affiliated to a brand. We try to keep fidelity in the program, but we don't use a stick. We don't control anything from headquarters. We believe that building thriving organizations has to do with building locally, finding local leaders, local investors and when we say investors, we're not just talking about money. We're talking about investing the energy it takes to turn things around in cities. And so we chose the affiliate model, it has its challenges, but the amazing fruit of the work is if you can get this right, and these local organizations go down this path and they're in their maturation cycle, and you see them starting to mature and grow. And you did that without any control. You did it all through the lens of influence and leadership. And so as we're growing, the network is getting a lot stronger. People are getting smarter and better as they run these programs, and they're able to bring those learnings kind of back to the network. And so the benefit for us in this model is that it is very organic in that nature. And not to say we're not programming a bunch of stuff in there to make it happen.
But it also has to be kind of that flywheel effect, right? Where all of a sudden you're creating this own velocity that keeps things going on its own, when circulating great ideas and everybody's learning and getting better working together.
Yeah. And the unique thing about us is, we know that, when you start a business, there's a lot of time and resource and energy that goes into things that are usually about building the infrastructure, not about the mission of the organization. So we want to kind of take some of that off of starting affiliates so they can be about relationships and really walk alongside of them. When we offer executive coaching, we offer all kinds of resources that kind of take that burden off a first year executive director. And so the benefit there is that, you can focus on the work that matters the most while relying on what we do, which is, and we do this, we've done this 17 times now, 17 cities and soon to be 20.
17. Awesome. Soon to be 20. Wow.
Yeah, 20, and we're launching about 4 a year. So by 2025, we will be at 29 cities, which is really exciting, super exciting.
Yeah, well, I want to get into the work you're doing, but I want to go back to one thing, and it's a line that I got from you in one of the meetings we were at. And it's if you can go out of business, you're a business. And this is something I think a lot of nonprofits don't fully understand or don't really get their head around. And that's a huge advantage that you guys are bringing, is that business component to all your affiliates.
Yeah. I mean, anyone that's tried to start a nonprofit or a church knows that money doesn't just fall from the sky.
Right.
A lot of people look at their work as ministry or work as, since it's social, someone's going to come and help, and they don't treat it like a business. So how does a business thrive? It's, a lot of your management framework, your paradigm about people, all the things that you do to build a strong culture, and then have the mechanisms inside that are very strong capabilities. And certainly you can't scale unless you have those strong capabilities.
Right.
And so that's a completely different, that is a different mindset for us. Yeah, that's what was taught to me a long time ago, is a lot of people don't think they're running a business, but if you can go out of business, you're a business.
One of my favorite lines ever. I've used it 1,000 times.
Well, you have to be proactive, right? It's not things don't get done for you, and then you dissect, and there's enough research out there to know what builds a thriving business, and so yeah,
that's what you guys can bring to the affiliates. And let's talk a little bit about the programming, though, because when you talk about life-changing relationships with urban youth, how does that start, and really, what are the barriers for those kids to find a program like yours?
Yeah, so that's our mission, is to build long-term, and I got to pause after each one of these words because they mean something. We build long-term, life-changing relationships with youth, equipping them to thrive and contribute to their community. And so each one of those words we have dissected and not only have programmed, but it might sound like a little fluff out there. But so one of the barriers, it's common for us to hear terms like food insecurity,
right?
Housing insecurity, things like that. And you don't really hear the term relational insecurity. What are the relationships that are vital in one's life to propel them just even to progress? Okay. Just progress. Like, we all raise children that we hope will be, we correct things, right? We want to be better than it was, the way that, and so we're trying to do that generationally as well. And so long-term life-changing relationships with youth, And we're really concerned about what happens after that. What does it mean to thrive and contribute to their community? So we start there with just that mission. And I'm going to start though outside of program and just hit on what I talked about a little bit before about building an organization. It starts really with having the right paradigm about people in your organization, and ensure you build a cohesive leadership team around that, and you hire staff that are aligned with that paradigm. Yeah. And so what I mean by that is we believe every single person, adult and kid, every administrator in a school has intrinsic value and they're worthy of dignity. I mean, we believe in the intrinsic dignity of every person. So we don't get into systems. We're not political. We don't. That's not our focus. Our focus is on the kids and the people inside of those systems. So once you get the right people on the bus and you don't find people that think this is cool, but find people that leave the interview and go, I was built for this. Okay. You get those guys on here. That's the first thing. Right. Yeah. Because without that, the programming and everything else and building a healthy culture is not going to happen. However, when we get to the program side, now here's where there's some distinctions between the way we approach mentoring kids than maybe some other programs. There's different kinds of models. You have facility-based mentoring. You've got you have one-on-one mentoring. We kind of never put our resource in a brick and mortar to create a facility. What we want to do is go right where the kids are at. So the unique thing about us, one of the distinctions is and I hate saying this because it's such a buzzword now, but we're about the whole child. It's holism. It's a holistic approach to kids. Right. We realize that kids have, there's several areas in a kid's life that we want to be able to address all of them. And so the research tells us that if kids don't have a caring, trusted adult in their life that's invested long-term, that they're going to grow up and perpetuate poverty and scarcity mindset. And so what we do is we start young. I'll go back to how this program started. In 1982, Dr. Kent Hutchison came back from the Philippines. He was doing some social service work there, doing some missionary work. No. He was born here in South Denver. He went to South High School, born in South Denver. And he was just like, man, there's something I have to do in my backyard. There's something we have to do in this city. And what it would do he was trying to address really what we would call workforce readiness now. Like, what are kids that are in poverty? What happens after they graduate? So he started a jobs program. And what he found was, you're hooking 18-year-olders up with local business people who are on your board. And things started happening early on with those kids. They did not have the leadership, they're not ready for that development to hold jobs. Mm-hmm. One of the best stories is a board member gave a car to a kid and to get to work, to get back and forth. And the kid took the car and went to Florida. And so you kind of pause or California, somewhere else. You kind of pause for a minute and you think, all right, we got to start younger. So the thought came to take high school kids down to an elementary school and take your high school kids down and teach 4th and 5th graders character. So, and then stuff started to happen. You start to see kids going back now to a local elementary school that they likely went to. Right. And now you got a cool senior coming to talk to a 4th grader about why vision's important, why it's important to care. And then that started a very program that became very long-term. It started in now 4th grade, where there's exposure to these concepts facilitated by high school kids in the neighborhood. But then we would follow those kids in middle school, and we would provide, summer day camps, everything else. And then we built a middle school program that would teach in the schools. So our program teaches character, life skills, and leadership in the public schools, and then mentors those kids after school. So we start, now building the content in middle school. Well, being a program director over there, I can tell you, I tracked every kid going from 8th to 9th grade. I found out where they were going to high school, and I ensured that once they got to high school, they got in Colorado Uplift, which would then allow them to do what happened to them. And now they're going back to Little Lift.
Nice.
And so this long-term 8-year relationship, just in the K-12 space, that's what we call long-term, but it's also year-round. So when everyone packs up for the summer, we get summer programming going. In summer programming, we have an adventure program. There's 4 components of our program, one of which is adventure. We take advantage of that. Obviously, here in Colorado, it's easy. We take kids backpacking and whitewater rafting. So kids that would never experience have an opportunity to grow through challenge. We provide that opportunity for them. We've done winter survival and snowboarding and skiing. And of course, most of the time, this is the first time kids get to even get off the block,
right?
Even get out of their neighborhood. I mean, I would be in Castle Rock and kids would be like, are we still in Colorado?
Wow.
Like there's just this thing that they've just even exposure. So you do that year round. Okay, so that's this adventure piece. And then you're in the school teaching. So you see those kids 10 times a day, 15 times a day, let alone have them for an elective period. Right. And then there's this after school component, right? A lot of programs will stop at the end of the school day. We realize a lot of our students' problems start at the end of the school day. So we take them and we feed them and we have sports programs and we do tutoring, but it is very much, there's a deep immersion there. Parents, what's in their refrigerators. You're really available for whatever a kid is going through. Many times our parents would call us and say, you need to pick up Jesus today. He's acting crazy. And I'd go get him. And then there's this whole thing. You're developing the inside, the social, kind of well-being, the mental health side of this, just the relational support that you're providing and watching things change in a kid's life. It's transformational. So now what do they do after? So then we have a post-secondary program that would not only like in junior year, and I just remember going down to East High School and ensuring that every single one of our kids in our East class were enrolled, are applied to schools and applied for scholarships. We ran an entire program. Like, how do you fill out FAFSA?
Right.
I mean, that's not foreign to a first-year graduate, let alone how you get to college. So we ran sessions. So we're concerned about the whole kid, not only just, we might be playing basketball, but I'm also with the principal and him working on, a plan to decrease some behavior or something. Down to sitting down there at our graduation day. And the best joy I have right now is that now we're seeing kids come back and we're employing them. So we have kids in the program that have went to college, they've achieved a degree and they can do a lot. And they say, I'm going to come back and I want to do this for my community.
Oh my gosh.
So we're seeing it full circle, and what better to have someone that's leading a program be one that's grown up in it and has experienced
lived experience. You bet.
Exactly. So those are the unique distinctions. It's 4 program areas. It's long term. It's a 24/7 availability. We don't use volunteers. We hire FTEs to do this work because we just believe that when you have a full-time employee that's called to this work, they're going to run this a little bit longer than if you're relying on volunteers that may move out of the community or whatever. And so those are some of the unique distinctions about the program.
Well, it's super exciting that this is spreading to 20 cities, which is awesome. But one of the things I'm fascinated with is this idea of relational insecurity, because teenagers are like that anyway. So now, tell me how much you're having to make up for now after going through the pandemic. I mean, that took relational insecurity and blew it to a whole new low, right? Yeah.
Pre-COVID, we had a problem. We had a problem that we weren't solving already. And so it's a typical term if you're in the education space. If we just talk about the learning, not the social side yet, just the learning, we talk about a summer slide. So what is the learning loss that happens over a summer? And that's 2 months.
Right.
Okay? And it's significant. It's measurable. You can look at it. Mm-hmm. And so early on, Dr. Hanushek out of Stanford did some kind of predicting what the COVID slide was going to cost society, and just even in GDP, like what's the long-term impact of learning loss? And kind of stunning what came out. And if you follow some of the news, just recently, 23 schools in the Baltimore district, 0% of the kids are proficient. So like, if you think about what's going on here, you have the side that was a problem before COVID, and it was the relational insecurity. Mm-hmm. Some of the only relationships the kids had were inside of those schools,
right?
that were healthy. So that kind of got messed up for, let's just call it 2 years, depending on where you're at in the country. 2 years of that. Not only that, but many kids didn't even have the equipment to log in. So now you're in the projects. You don't have a laptop, and if you did have a laptop, you might not have bandwidth for multiple kids to log in. So now you're not even connecting on a screen. I mean, the attendance rate at one point was like under 85%, which is alarming. That just logging into the computer.
Right.
And then you have kids like without their screen on, playing Xbox.
Right.
I only know that because I have a son who tells me the truth about things. But you just say that. So, but let's talk about. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the social piece now. This relational insecurity.
Yeah.
We spend a lot of resource on measurement evaluation. We spent about last year was 20% of our budget. Okay. Because what we want to do is make sure that we are looking very deep into the program and understanding how the people we serve see this program, but also measuring things that are important to us to move the needle on. So like, 60%, of our kids they don't live with their biological father. 30% moved one time in the last year. Half of the kids have disciplinary issues. You have all these things. These are the things that we want to measure against. So I'll just give you an example of one of the things that we saw there's this term that came out in the height of COVID for Elevate USA. And it was not so with Elevate USA students. That was the term, because we were seeing opposite trends happening in the Elevate USA student population. So there was some research that came out that said 4 out of 10 kids feel completely alone and have no one to talk to. Just let that soak in for a minute.
Right. Think about that.
So you got 10 kids, 4 of them are crying in their bedroom because they have no one to talk to. Sitting in that pain is hard. So they do.
And think about that for a second, because of the 6 that answered differently, how many were really telling the truth?
Yeah, true.
So it's more than 4.
True.
Right?
Yeah. So if you think about that, just that stat alone, we also surveyed all of our students, which in the height of COVID, because we were doing home visits and we were still very connected the best we could, not having schools.
Right.
But we had 80% of our kids say that they felt deeply loved by their teacher mentor. While 87% of low-income families were unemployed during that season of COVID. 83% of our kids were employed. So there's just like these total. So we look at things. We want to track things that matter. Okay, so we look at like on the social and emotional well-being side, we look at suicide. Okay, and we asked the question during the last 12 months: did you consider attempting suicide? And this is a pre and post survey. Mm-hmm. Okay. And before Elevate, just even in our Black and Hispanic females, 24% said that they have. After just a year with their mentor, we see a 34% decrease. We see just in a year. This is the mentor that walks with them, that not only drives them home from school, but sometimes picks them up. And in those van rides, we've kind of joked around over the years of doing this work that the van is like your office, and you're in that. And a lot of stuff happens when kids say, "Can you drop me off last?" and then I'm with a young man, and he tells me the things that he can't tell in front of everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
And me as his mentor and leader, now I have to kind of, okay, this is where he's at. What do I do about that? So we see a decrease in this, even the way that kids, addressing suicide, the way they think about suicide. We look at several questions, even on classroom engagement. We saw, so like after a year being in Elevate, see a 217% increase in classroom engagement. So we ask a bunch of questions around, if you're engaged in your class, first of all, okay, that is the environment you need for learning, right? You have to be engaged, and the teachers that create that environment, God bless them, man. It's hard work.
Yeah, it's hard work.
Kids actually are the ones that now their paradigm about school start to change a little bit, and they start doing things that are that we would call classroom engagement. Violence in the schools. We see a 69% reduction in physical altercations.
Wow.
70%. And this is like, just give us a couple semesters. Just give us a couple semesters with kids, because after school, I'm going to be with them. And on the weekends, I'm going to go to their games. If they're playing extracurricular, we look at community involvement. They increase their volunteering by 75%. So here you have kids that, and because we're service oriented and what we're doing, they are partaking in this all the time with us, some sort of volunteering. We build homes, we clean up yards, we do this stuff in the summer and after school. They're engaged in it, that they go and do it in their own communities. So we're looking at some of that stuff. Now, I would say that without the relational security, which is your original question, we're trying to address this thing. What did COVID do? All it did for us at Elevate USA was just change the course a little bit. We knew we still had to pursue kids. Yeah. We did the best we could with what we had, but we didn't have to close our doors, right? We didn't have the facility that was shut down now. Now we can go in the front yard of a kid's house and talk with them. And a lot of people got very creative during that time. And so what we know, we measure things like, does a mentee share their life problems with their mentor? And large in part, they do. 70% of those kids say, this is my trusted, caring adult who I'm going to share these hard things with.
Yeah.
And now we can help them, right? We can resource them. We can walk with them. And so I think there's no other way to do this but to go deep with kids, to be long-term. The other thing that's unique is we hire people from that community to serve the kids in the community. And so it's really hard to say to someone, a teacher, whom, by the way, we have three teachers in a classroom at a time, a little bit of a different situation. But it's really hard to tell one of those teachers, you don't know what I'm going through when they went to that school. Right. You don't know what I'm going through. Right. I didn't have a dad either. And look at me, I have a degree now and I'm here helping you. So there are some real benefits to hiring people that want to transform their community. And so that is our sweet spot. I probably wouldn't get hired in most of our cities right now as a teacher mentor. And I accept that.
Yeah. Well, it's awesome that you're backing up all of your stuff with all this data and research as such a great proof of concept. And it's starting to get noticed, right? I saw where you guys just won a national award from Chick-fil-A, and you're getting some other national recognition too. So I'd love you to brag about some of that just a little bit, because it's recognition that what you're doing is effective and is working.
Yeah, I just I do want to brag about it. I am proud of it, because we have teacher mentors all day that strap up their boots and they go on a battlefield. Like when that school's on fire, these guys are not running away from that building. They're the first ones in. And what's been awesome is to see the recognition when you have an award that's called the True Inspiration Award. And you got people who are in the trenches, man. We lost 2 students
Every day.
Yeah, we lost 2 students to gun. One was a drug just two weeks ago, and these are kids that were in our program that we just our teacher mentors are right there, right in the middle of that thing, picking up those pieces now. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to change that story. Okay, so when we get recognized as who's out there really trying to make a difference in the community. And what's been cool was that we got the network kind of engaged, and they were all making videos. And what was joyful, to me about it was that like kids were taking pride in their Elevate. And so they would make little 30-second clips of these videos and say, vote for Elevate USA. And you can tell that it was almost like they were up there promoting their own brand, They're the believers of it. So, yeah, we got recognized by Chick-fil-A, got a great donation from them. We also we partner with another organization called Stand Together, which Stand Together is really an incredible nonprofit organization that they exist to kind of eradicate poverty and do it very uniquely. They do it by not only promoting and supporting, but making investment in organizations that are trying to scale, but have proven their impact. And so we are a Stand Together Catalyst partner.
Yeah.
And they serve about 250 catalysts. And we were chosen for the Impact Partner Group, which is 25 organizations out of that 250 that got selected.
Top 10%, salute.
Yeah, and the great thing about it is it's like cool, yeah, you get this recognition, but what it really means is it ups your game a whole bunch. So, and when it comes to your management framework and how you're running your infrastructure, we now have a lot of resource and tool to strengthen and kind of fortify some of these things that we're doing, but also make sure that we're building a thriving, sustainable infrastructure that can continue to scale. And so it's not just the recognition; it's really being part of a movement. It's a movement. What Stand Together is doing, and their support has been incredible for us.
Awesome. Well, you've been in this space now for more than 20 years, helping give a hand up to young people. What is it that drives you? I
think for me, it has to do with investing your life in something that's greater than yours, but something that's going to last beyond you too. I don't think I could do this and get behind a program that I didn't know worked. So I think my motivation, the thing that excites me, is that right now my motivation is knowing that we just launched on the Navajo Nation, which is an incredible entry into, in case most people don't know, the toughest, poorest space in this country, where 4 out of 10 people don't have electric and running water and just basic essentials.
I mean, that's staggering to think that's in this country.
Yeah, and we're there, and we're launched there. It's probably one of the launches awesome. That I'm most proud of. Which for us, we have our eyes on the First Nations, and we have to address that there's people suffering in our space, and they're also, again, back to our paradigm about people, they're intrinsically valuable. They're worthy of dignity, and so there's that. But I can't, it's hard for me to watch the news anymore because I just, we hear these 2 kids, and just even in our network that were taken. I've lost students. We've lost family members, and we have to do something to stop it. And the only way I know how to do that is to start with kids and start at a young age. The only thing that keeps me going is I know that I have kids right now that would not be where they're at without their mentor walking with them, without a doubt. And I mean, we're getting down to the place where we're starting to quantify things that are proving this model that it works. And you know what else, Jay? Sorry, but it would be nice to have some good news around.
Isn't that the truth?
And I can tell you good news stories all day long about overcomers, people who have now out of the scarcity mindset into a growth mindset, who are the first to do things in their family. And this is how you start that ripple effect. Some of my kids that have made that progression and we've seen the social mobility, and I can count it. They're going to have children, and they're going to buy homes.
I was going to say you're
buy their cars, and they're going to pay taxes, and they're going to buy groceries.
Yep.
And when one kid does that, and another, and we can do something about, not only graduating, but also graduating and getting gainful employment, you're going to raise your children a little different. And it's going to take this. We're working with 11,000 kids. There's 40 million low-income kids in the country. We have work to do. It's got to start young. And I can tell you, watching the fruit after faithfully planting seeds and watering, it'll make anyone a believer. You just have to stay around long enough, and it will happen. And so what keeps me going is knowing that it works and knowing it's a solution that isn't a Band-Aid. And it's not let me feed you a meal so you're good tonight. Mine is like my heart is not that. It certainly is teaching the person how to fish, but even more so, change your family tree, reverse this.
Yeah, I was going to say you're changing you're changing the trajectory of generations, right?
Yeah, we're trying to reverse that generations of failure, generations of poverty, and poverty starting in the mindset.
Yeah.
And so that's what is encouraging to me. And I would also say this, man, it is a lot different working with an organization and people that are just incredible. I work with heroes, right? So it makes it like, for me, what keeps me in it is not only what I'm doing, but who I'm doing it with. We have an amazing team. And so it
comes back to that circle thing. Everybody's feeding each other. You're all getting better. Rising tide lifts all boats. It's awesome to think about. So as we wind down, change gears just a little bit. Tell me what's something that you will read, listen to, or watch today.
So I got a couple things. One is got a book from a guy we just hired. I have to read this. So it's called The Best of Monday Morning Minute. It's a guy we just, he's an executive coach. We brought him on board. So I'll probably have my nose in this guy. A lot of podcasts that I will listen to in going back and forth, but I think a lot of our stuff right now, I'm actually trying to read a lot of our own research, and it's more because we have some projects that are going on. So
hopefully squeeze some blues in there somewhere.
Well, it'll be later in the background. You know that.
So tell me, who's somebody that's really been a role model that's inspired you to do this work that you're doing?
Yeah, I'd have to go back to Ken Hutchison, the founder of Colorado Uplift. I had the benefit, he passed several years ago. I had the benefit of basically being recruited by him. And I got to sit kind of at his feet for a long time and got close with him. And his wife, Diane, who is one of the most amazing women you'll ever meet, her faith, her strength through all kinds of triumphs. These guys have adopted kids from the Philippines. They have been unwavering in their faith. But not only that, to the day that Kent was working, that guy never stopped. He was sick for a very long time. And even through times where we thought we were going to lose Kent, the next thing we know, that guy is like on a plane, doing something to advance the mission. He is a guy that would work all night long writing, right? But he kind of showed what it meant to go about this with a white hot fire, with unwavering, always talking about the urgency. It was always urgent. In fact, when he would talk to us, it was almost like, you got to go now. Like there was an urgency. We were losing kids. Go get them now. This kind of thing. And so I think that really set the pace, set my mindset at least, but it also resonated with me in that if you're going to go, you got to be relentless in your pursuit for kids. And he he modeled that, and he modeled it until he passed, and he left an incredible legacy.
It's safe to say, I think you'd be proud of that you're carrying on what he started.
Yeah.
Lastly, if anybody wants to learn more about Elevate USA, support you, get involved, what's the best way to find you?
Yeah, just you can go on our website, www.elevatetheusa.org. And don't forget the, but our contact information's on there, and we'd love to entertain any conversations. Also on LinkedIn. I think we're on Instagram. I'm not, but we're on Facebook. That's our social media presence.
That's fantastic. We'll put that all in the show notes. This is really, John, this has been a masterclass in nonprofit management. I think so impressed. Couldn't be more impressed with the research and the data and the drive and the passion. Keep up the great work, and God bless.
Thank you, Jay. It's been great to be with you.
Thanks for listening. It will be exciting to watch Elevate USA continue to grow. This podcast has been brought to you by JC Charity Services. Our business is to help build great organizations. Learn more at makingourworldbetter.com. To learn more about Elevate USA, visit elevatetheusa.org and find them on LinkedIn, Facebook, and other social media platforms. Check the show notes for links, and if you enjoyed this podcast, we'd be grateful if you'd share it with a friend. Until next time, I hope you're inspired to find a way to make our world better.